Sonic has often been faced with nigh impossible odds, and despite that, still manages to come out on top. However, his latest endeavor might just be his most dangerous yet, as he comes face to face with Metal Sonic in his newly upgraded form. Our story begins on Angel Island, where Sonic, Tails, Amy, and Knuckles had all just spent a rather lovely day together. Sonic tries to tease Knuckles by saying that the two of them are best friends now, which Knuckles vehemently claims is not true. But interrupting the banter, Amy calls out as she notices a rather strange looking meteor falling from the sky. While everyone else seems intrigued by the meteor, Sonic couldn't be bothered to pay it any mind, as he would much rather relax. Besides, as far as he's aware, most meteors break apart before they reach the planet's surface. But before the final words could even reach his lips, a thunderous boom roared out as the meteor struck down, leaving Sonic to realize that his brief relaxation has come to an end, and he and his pals are in for yet another adventure. Together, they take the tornado to reach the crash site, but as they arrive, it's clear right away that this isn't just a typical meteor, as there's plant life sprawling from the epicenter of the impact. As Tails approaches, his scanners inform him that whatever this is, it's safe to touch, and as he picks up the strange object, he confirms that it is in fact a meteor, although most certainly not your typical one. Knuckles is interested in the roots extruding from the meteor, and Sonic chimes in that it looks like there might be a plant inside of it. Tails agrees and infers that this plant might be able to nurture life, given that it has other life to draw from. And as Tails says this, Amy spots a dead plant nearby that looks as though it's been completely drained of its life. Amy is quite amazed by this discovery, but at the same time, she's also worried about the land nearby being withered away. However, before they can even learn any further about this strange meteor, Eggman arrives, immediately snatching it from the grasp of Tails. Apparently, Eggman had traced a massive energy spike all the way to this location, and with such a ginormous amount of energy being generated from this meteor, Eggman can finally enact his latest and greatest plan. Tails attempts to warn Eggman that whatever this is, it could be dangerous, as they know little to nothing about it yet. However, Eggman says that he's counting on this being dangerous as he flies away. It really shows that despite Eggman's genius, he truly doesn't plan for the long term. He's fulfilled by power and instant gratification. Sonic seems really annoyed by Eggman's constant scheming, but Tails seems more concerned about what this meteor may be capable of even without Eggman's interference, and he intends to follow the Mad Doctor. As the crew sets off once again, Amy checks in with Knuckles to make sure that he's okay with coming along. After all, he won't be able to watch over the Master Emerald since they'll be far from Angel Island. But Knuckles isn't worried, because with how he left the Emerald, it's practically invisible to the untrained eye, or so Knuckles would have you believe, as all he's essentially done was up the security on it, making it, well, a bit more noticeable if anything, as Amy points out. As they continue following Eggman, Tails is stunned as they come into view of a gargantuan obelisk with Eggman's face on it. The mere sight of another Eggman base sickens Sonic as he wonders just how many bases Eggman has. But then he notices something odd. In the shadow of the looming monument, many of the trees have been felled, and the wildlife has seemingly either left or worse. And in their stead, Eggman has placed countless generators for what one can only assume is powering something rather nefarious. As they pass over the field of generators, the air becomes noticeably filled with static, and all of this electrical interference begins to disrupt the tornado's flight, leaving Knuckles to be like, what does that mean for us? Tails tells him that they're going to have to make an emergency landing as they all jump ship and the tornado crashes down. Knuckles informs Tails that what they just went through wasn't exactly an emergency landing, and more so within the realm of crashing. But the conversation is cut really short as a shot fires right in front of Tails, missing him by a hair. He's confused for a moment, but as the heroes look up, they realize that a horde of Hotaru are flying right above them. The opposing sides share a brief and awkward stare before Sonic and his friends just bolt out of there. It reminded me a lot of the Sonic CD end cutscene where Sonic fights off a few of these guys, but what they're up against here is nothing short of a small army, and it would be much easier for Sonic to keep his friends safe by hightailing it out of there instead of fighting. As they make their grand retreat, Tails notices Eggman slinking away into his base near the logo at the top. Sonic decides to follow, running up the side of the base with his best friend, while Tails lifts Amy. But it's not all fun and jokes, as Eggman's minions are in hot pursuit, nearly zapping Knuckles before the heroes fortunately make it inside. Within the bleak mechanical corridors of Eggman's obelisk, it's apparent that Eggman is working on something insane, perhaps bigger and more ambitious than ever before. However, before they can begin to investigate further, Knuckles spots Eggman running away for dear life, and let's not forget that despite his rather stocky build, Eggman is very fast on his feet. As the heroes close in on their bald-headed foe, they find something rather unnerving. Terminals are set up across the base, with tubes interweaving and connecting to the center, where there lies Metal Sonic's powerless shell, ominously waiting. But for what? Sonic is perplexed by the sight, and his words alert Eggman to his intruder's presence. Although it seems that Eggman isn't worried anymore. See, now that he has the meteor and Metal Sonic, he finally has everything that he needs to conquer the world. He's confident that despite his past misfortunes, things will be different this time. Eggman humorously blames his failures on various circumstances, and Amy is like, by that you mean us, right? Like, we're the various circumstances. And Eggman is like, no, various circumstances. His ego will not allow him to admit defeat to Sonic and his friends. See, his new plan has involved him compiling data from previous efforts so that there's no room for error or randomness. A plan that would be so foolproof, it would lead to the rise of the Eggman Empire. All of that data would be fed into Metal Sonic so that from it, he can run countless simulations until he comes up with the best path forward to blaze their conquest together. This is the very reason that Eggman has placed down so many generators. He's been trying to power up Metal to the most powerful that he's ever been in order to crush anyone who stands in their way. Tails is, however, confused. I mean, sure, this plan sounds like a typical Eggman scheme, but where does the meteor come into play for any of this? Eggman reveals that despite putting down all those generators, it still hasn't been enough to power Metal Sonic for this plan. And while the Chaos Emeralds would surely do the job, Eggman has only been able to acquire one thus far. However, the energy spike picked up from the meteor indicated to Eggman that it would conveniently be enough to enact his plan. I love how Eggman is so cartoonishly evil and so egotistically sure of his plan that he just falls into the classic villain trope of revealing all of his plans and ambitions to his enemies before he's even fully prepared. But strangely, as Eggman reveals that he wants to run some tests on this odd meteor first, the roots latch themselves onto the core of Metal Sonic, surprising Eggman himself. And just like that, all of the sudden, Metal comes online. His piercing red gaze setting a rather sinister tone as something isn't quite right. Vines begin to shoot out of the robotic Sonic imposter, overtaking Eggman's tech. Tails comes to the horrific realization that it's a possibility that the plant inside of this meteor is sentient. This shocking revelation made me think of a horror movie that I had watched a while ago called The Ruins, where a sentient plant essentially tricks people, luring them inside by mimicking human sound before grabbing them with its vines. It's truly creepy stuff, and now, perhaps, this plant is using Metal as a puppet. Eggman becomes very intrigued at the idea of an energy source with its own willpower. A very interesting premise, so long as it serves him, of course. Despite the plant life running crazy and having a will of its own, it is powering up Metal Sonic, and that is all that Eggman really cares about. Eggman reiterates his plan since day one, which is to fully eradicate free will, so that there's no randomness or change that can stand in his path of world domination. If you want to see more about the themes of free will in Sonic and why Eggman battles so hard to eliminate it, check out the video here. Eggman believes that his goal and the plants align because both seemingly want to take out all life on the planet. Eggman wants a world filled with machines, something that can be controlled, manipulated, and will follow orders without any questions. On the other hand, the plant needs to drain life to grow, so in a weird way, Eggman sees a path forward together, and thus, he begins to initiate Metal Sonic. Elsewhere, as the sun begins to set behind the mountains, Ray the Flying Squirrel responds to his friend Mighty the Armadillo that something feels off. But perhaps it's nothing. Regardless of this weird feeling, their sights are still set firmly on their next adventure together. Mighty tells Ray that he's like a luck charm because for whatever reason, wherever they've gone off to recently, they've stumbled upon a Chaos Emerald. However, out from the water, a vine stretches across towards the two unsuspecting heroes, almost like the Watcher in the water in The Lord of the Rings, ready to grab its next victim. Ray is suddenly lifted into the sky and shaken about until the two Chaos Emeralds he had with him came loose. Mighty then grabs the vine that has his buddy and rips it apart, freeing Ray from its treacherous grasp. However, the plant manages to make off with the emeralds, leading the two to pursue. The hooligans also seem to be in the thick of it, as finding some Chaos Emeralds has caused them way more trouble than they expected. Bean is screaming like a maniac for help from Fang, who's currently dealing with problems of his own. Not able to overcome the vines in time, Bark, Bean, and Fang are all taken alongside the emeralds. I always like how nonchalant about things Bark is, almost like he just puts up with Bean and Fang because they're his friends and it's like an obligation to be there with them. We also get to see Trip, which is such a welcome surprise. Last year, we got to see her learn more from Knuckles after their adventure in Sonic Superstars, and that was such a fun story. But now it seems she's thrust into danger as a Chaos Emerald lands in her hand. Unaware of what exactly is going on, Trip is grabbed as her Gramps watches in horror, unable to help. As the vines begin to encompass more of Eggman's base, Sonic stares on in disbelief as he wasn't expecting this plant and Eggman to eradicate all life. But Eggman just cheers on his robotic son. He's like, yeah, good job. Amy takes a moment to scold Eggman and point out that all life includes him, causing some introspection where Eggman is like, well, now that you mention it, that kind of is a problem because without me, there's no Eggman Empire. Tails also chimes in that technology and nature can actually exist in harmony. However, what Eggman has been doing isn't compatible with life, and Eggman yells back that he doesn't want a lecture from the fox. Which, yeah, I'm not sure why Tails thought saying anything like that would help. Eggman is so stuck in his ways, and beyond that, he's made it clear countless times that he doesn't care about life unless it's his own. During the argument, the plant had crept up on everyone, using their yelling as the perfect distraction so it could toss them all out and enact its own plan, not Eggman's. Eggman is furious that his plan and machines have been bested by a little sprout, but that sprout isn't so little anymore, as it's overtaken the obelisk and withered all plant life outside of the base like some sort of leech. Observing one of Eggman's terminals, Tails surmises that they can stop Metal Sonic by disabling 3 generators that Eggman has inside the base, which are funneling all the power into him. While it won't stop the plant's energy source, it may just give them a fighting chance. Tails instructs his friends to split up and go after the generators while he stays back and make sure that Eggman doesn't try anything funny. Sonic is really impressed by his friend being able to come up with such a good plan so fast, but Knuckles lets them know they need to hurry up if they want to save the planet. Time is of the essence. With that, they lock in and split off, ready and willing to save the world. Being the fastest, Sonic is first to reach the generator. However, it oddly doesn't seem to be where it should be according to the layouts. Tails wonders if it could be below him, but as they try to figure everything out, some badniks begin to sneak up on the blue blur. Outside of the base, more vines approach, making their way inside, and riding atop one of them is Mighty and Ray, who wind up right over Sonic. Noticing that their friend is in danger and doesn't even realize it, Mighty leaps into action, using his immense strength to annihilate the badniks and break the ground beneath them, and unfortunately Sonic. Everyone falls below to the next level as Ray glides down safely, although it seems like Sonic and Mighty are going to be feeling this one well into next week. They help Sonic out of the rubble, and boy is he glad to see his friends. Tails informs Sonic that he destroyed the generator, and Sonic turns to notice that the badnik that Mighty had crushed landed atop it, meaning 1 down, 2 to go. Sonic gives his two friends a really brief rundown, letting them know that it's another save the planet situation. However, even with 2 more heroes joining in, it's still a race against the clock as the vines begin to spread further and further. Amy reaches her generator next, but even with all of her strength, the generator is rather reinforced, and she wonders how she's gonna be able to take this thing down. But almost like an answer from heaven, as she begins to wind up a swing, she looks up and notices the hooligans trapped in the vines above her. And of course, they're bickering amongst each other as always. During this commotion, Bean drops his bombs, and as most detonate on the vines, one makes its way down to Amy, and with a powerful hit, she launches it into the generator, blowing it up. But the force was so massive, it sent her flying back. Luckily, Bark was there to save her. Amy looks up, confused as to why they're there, but grateful nonetheless. I've got to say, I'm not usually a big fan of ships or anything, but I do like how Bark has a soft spot for Amy in these classic stories. She's someone who he clearly cares about. It seems like since their first run-in during the comics, he's had a little crush on her. He was also one of the many in line to read and support Amy's comic strip, and he played a big role in Amy's 30th anniversary comic where he helped her take down Metal Sonic and was blushing around the pink hedgehog. So it's kind of funny seeing him get a bit shy around her again, and a ship that I oddly find myself liking. Anyways, with the hooligans free, the plant makes away with the emeralds and continues to grow even more as it's starting to take over marine life as well. Tails screams in urgency to Knuckles that they need to hurry and take this last generator out, and this is probably the funniest part of the comic in my opinion, as Knuckles just stares on at it and is like, okay, and he hardly even swings at it and takes the generator down with ease. It really goes to show just how strong Knuckles is. Suddenly, a noise rings out behind him, catching his attention. And to his surprise, Trip had suddenly appeared almost out of thin air and saved him from a badnik who had snuck up on him. While their interaction is brief, it's nice seeing these two together again, seeing as Knuckles passed on a lot of knowledge to Trip last they met. However, with an emerald in her hand, the plant grabs her, whisking her away once more. And in just a small amount of time, this plant has overtaken a huge chunk of the world, making this one of the most dire threats Sonic and his friends have ever faced. Luckily, Sonic's friends were able to battle off the vines, freeing themselves and the emeralds that they carried. Trip informs Tails that for some reason the vines really want the emeralds, and Tails puts it all together. Metal Sonic has been using the meteor's vines to draw them all here, but what Tails finds odd is that the green emerald appears to be missing. Eggman then steps forward and reveals the green emerald as Knuckles snatches it from his greedy mitts. With the generators down and all emeralds accounted for, there's only one thing left to do: stop Metal Sonic. But doing that won't be easy. Plus, an army of badniks is closing in on them. Knuckles tells Sonic to take the emeralds and stop Metal Sonic. However, Sonic is worried about his friends, but Mighty tells him that they'll take care of things here, as he and Ray prepare themselves for action. Putting his trust in his friends like they've put trust in him, Sonic heads off on his lonesome, Chaos Emeralds at the ready. What was once a cold metallic base is now a jungle of vines. As the plant's power grows every second, it truly is now or never to put an end to this. Sonic calls out to Metal, who is now engulfed in vines. He urges Metal to figure out his own life and break free from Eggman's control so that they can find a way to all be friends and Metal can hang out with them instead of Eggman. But this plea to change his ways falls on deaf ears, as it only seems to anger the machine as he snaps to. Sonic looks truly disappointed that once again it's come to this between him and Metal, but then he readies himself for the battle to come as the Chaos Emeralds lend him their power. But Metal has a trick up his sleeve as well, as he's been charged up and has the mysterious power of this meteor. The two clash, and Metal Sonic is now capable of going toe-to-toe with Super Sonic thanks to his newfound energy source. Using the vines to his advantage, Metal sends them after Sonic, who dodges and launching counterattacks at every turn, but all the while, time continues to slip away for the heroes. Even Sonic's friends seem to be in trouble as more of Eggman's forces arrive, ready to take them down from above. However, Mighty, thinking on his feet, has an idea. Calling over Ray and Amy, he launches the two into the sky to reach their enemies and take them down. With Eggman's forces finally dealt with, all that stands in their way now is Metal Sonic. Oh, and the giant vine that is about to take down the base that the heroes are in. Using his expert hunting experience, Fang orders everyone to hang on to the vines while the building begins to collapse. High above, Sonic and Metal continue to battle it out, neither able to gain an edge over the other just yet. As they collide, the sheer force of power between the two begins to make the meteor crack before finally bursting in a wild explosion from the immense pressure of the godlike beings. Knocked out of their super states, Metal and Sonic begin to fall. However, Metal quickly recovers, grabbing the side of the building and, in a surprising twist, grabs Sonic, saving him from certain death. Sonic looks up, shocked like the rest of us, and pleased, almost as if his speech earlier may have gotten through to Metal, and a friendship, perhaps, is beginning to take form. But then, Metal lets go, surprising Sonic, but he lands safely in a pile of vines. It's a very interesting moment that Metal actually does care enough to save Sonic. Without that initial grab, he would be paced, and although he did drop Sonic, he made sure that he would land safely. It's all the more intriguing when looking at the future interactions between these two and the few times that they'll come together to work as a team. As Tails runs to check on his buddy, shards of the meteor begin to rain down on the world, and the life that it had once used to feed itself begins to heal what it had taken. The ending here is very reminiscent of Sonic CD when stars begin to rain down and bring life to the planet. Eggman, who has seemingly escaped the heroes, grabs Metal Sonic as they begin to retreat. As they fly away, Metal grabs a part of the meteor and he presses it to his chest as if he was wishing it could bring life to him as well. But sadly, nothing happens and Metal releases it to the wind. The heroes look on at the beautiful sight, nature being restored to the world by a heavenly starfall of sorts. It's a rather peaceful moment, everyone getting along and making a wish. Even Sonic looks towards the sky and makes a wish. Trip asks what he wished for, but Sonic tells her it's a secret. Let me know in the comments what you think he wished for. Personally, I think he may be wishing for something like Metal finding himself and the good in him, but perhaps it's as simple as just wanting happiness for his friends or even a day to relax. Sonic takes a moment to roast Knuckles and his potential wish as the story comes to a close. I really like this anniversary special. I always love the classic stories, but when you throw everyone in it, including Trip, I feel like the adventure becomes something truly special. And man, what an emotional moment with Metal Sonic right at the end. It's very much like his moment during the Metal Virus, and Metal saving Sonic made me think like Sonic planted a seed in him. The whole premise of this comic is based on nature and technology, and I can't help but recognize the symbolism that Sonic planted the seed within Metal's heart, though he's a machine. It's very interesting. I also really like how they weren't just like, oh, technology bad, but rather said that both technology and nature can exist in harmony, because there is more nuance to that conversation than most people tend to lead on. So I really did enjoy that. Overall, just a great classic adventure with Sonic and his friends. Like I said, this might honestly be the best to date, but let me know what you thought in the comments below, and as always, I want to wish you all the best. Take care. Peace.